I'd crossed it 100 times in daylight, but something about the fog rolling off the river made it feel different. My friend Daniel had warned me earlier that week that the bridge had been the spot of 2 accidents in the last month. Both drivers swore they saw someone standing in the middle of the road before they swerved. One survived, one didn't. Daniel told me to avoid it at night. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. I was coming back from my cousin's place, and it was close to midnight when I reached the edge of the bridge. The mist was so thick it hung in sheets, almost heavy enough to touch. The guardrails looked distorted like they were bending inward. I slowed down, rolling the window down a crack. The river below usually hummed, but that night it was dead silent. That was the first sign something wasn't right. About halfway across, my headlights flicked once. A soft pop sounded from beneath the hood. Then the dashboard lights dimmed. I felt the car lose power under my hands. I swore under my breath and coasted to the side as the engine died completely. I wasn't scared yet, just annoyed. I grabbed my phone, but the screen stayed black. No signal, no battery, nothing. The silence around me grew heavier, almost intentional. Then I heard it, a slow dragging shuffle on the asphalt behind my car. For a second I thought someone else had broken down too. I stepped out and called out, "Hello? You okay?" My voice came out thinner than I expected. The shuffling stopped. When the fog shifted, I saw a figure near the back of my car. A man, or someone shaped like one. He stood perfectly still, hands at his sides. His clothing looked wrong, like it was drenched, even though nothing around us was wet. I squinted trying to make out details, and that's when I noticed his head was slightly tilted in a way that didn't look natural. I felt the first real jolt of fear then. Something inside me whispered to get back in the car, even though I knew it was useless without power. Still, I moved slowly toward the driver's door. The figure's head tilted more, almost like he was studying me. I froze with my hand on the door handle. He took one step forward. The step made a sound I'll never forget, like bones grinding together. I backed up automatically. My pulse was climbing so fast it hurt. The fog shifted again, revealing more of his face. His skin looked bloated, stretched. His eyes were open, but not focused. And then I saw the worst part, a deep gash across the side of his neck. A familiar one. The same mark I'd seen in the newspaper photo of the man who died on this bridge 3 weeks ago. My breath caught. I tried to speak, but all that came out was a shaky exhale. The figure took another step, and I felt this heavy pressure settle on my chest, like the air itself didn't want me to run. And then he whispered something. I didn't understand the words, but it was the sound wet labored wrong. That's when I finally snapped and ran. I bolted toward the far end of the bridge, the fog swallowing everything except the dull thud of my footsteps. I didn't dare look back. I only knew the sound behind me had changed. The shuffling had turned into a faster, uneven drag, like he was trying to match my pace. My lungs burned. Every few seconds I expected a hand to clamp around my shoulder. When I got close to the guardrail near the end of the bridge, I saw something that made my stomach drop. There were deep scratch marks running across the metal, long and jagged, like someone had clawed at it in desperation. Some of the scratches still had dark residue in them. I didn't want to think about what it was. I stopped only when I reached the final concrete support. I pressed my back against it, trying to catch my breath, trying to listen. The dragging steps had stopped again. The silence returned, even thicker than before. I peeked around the side of the support. He was standing in the middle of the bridge, now closer than before, the fog curling around him, like it was hiding him on purpose. His head lifted a little, like he was smelling the air. He tilted again, that unnatural angle that made my stomach twist. I whispered to myself, think. But all I could think about was Daniel saying the survivors all described the same thing. A man who shouldn't be alive, standing exactly where he died. I moved slowly along the edge of the bridge, staying low. My hope was to get to the end and sprint into the trees. Just vanish into the dark. Anything was better than being stuck on that bridge. But halfway down, the temperature dropped so fast my fingers went numb. The fog thickened until I couldn't see my own shoes. I froze again, trying to listen, but the silence didn't help. It hit everything. Then right next to my ear, I heard a voice. Not a whisper this time. A breathy, strained, broken voice. "Don't leave me." I stumbled forward, nearly falling over the railing. My heart was pounding, so hard I felt dizzy. I turned expecting him to be right there, inches from my face. Nothing. Just fog. I didn't think. I ran. The moment my shoes hit solid ground past the bridge, the air shifted. Warmer. Lighter. The sound behind me stopped completely, like whatever was on that bridge couldn't step off it. I kept running until I reached the edge of the woods, where my phone finally flickered back on with a weak battery icon. I called Daniel, voice shaking so hard I could barely explain what happened. He arrived 20 minutes later, and he didn't say much when he saw the state I was in. But when we drove past the bridge, he looked straight ahead and muttered, "You're lucky. Most who see him don't make it off." I haven't driven over Keller Bridge since that night. I don't even walk near it during the day. Sometimes late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear that wet, broken whisper in my head. "Don't leave me." And I pray I never hear it again. That changed the night. I was driving back from Swan Ridge, a small town north of where I live. I had gone there to see an old friend, Mark Turner, who'd been struggling after his father died. I left late around 11:30 because we ended up talking longer than planned. The quickest way home was across the Ashwell Bridge, a narrow 2-lane span that stretched over a river thick with reeds and black water. I had crossed it dozens of times, but I'd never crossed it alone this late. About a mile before the bridge, I realized something felt off. My headlights kept flickering. Not a full blackout, just small dips, like something was interfering with the power. I slowed down, thinking maybe the battery was acting up, but the dashboard stayed solid. Only the headlights stuttered. I tried to brush it off, but the road was empty, and the silence made every little glitch feel heavier. When I reached the bridge entrance, the air felt colder. I remember checking the temperature on my dash. It had dropped almost 8 degrees since I left Mark's place. The moment my tires hit the metal, grating, the flicker became worse. I leaned forward over the wheel like that would help. The bridge stretched long in the dark, and the river below looked like a pit. Halfway across, I saw someone. A man stood on the right side of the bridge rail, facing the river. He wasn't moving. He wasn't looking at my car. He just stood there like he'd been carved out of the night. I slowed down, heart pounding. My first thought was that he might be thinking about jumping, and I couldn't just drive past. I rolled the window halfway down. "Hey, are you all right?" He didn't react. Not even a flinch. I pulled over a few feet behind him, turned on the hazards, and stepped out. The cold hit harder the second my foot touched the ground. The hairs on my arms rose before the fear even settled. "Sir," I tried again, walking closer. Still no reaction. When I got about 10 feet away, my headlights flickered one more time, then steadied. That tiny flash lit him enough for me to see his clothes. Faded jeans, a dark jacket, wet, completely soaked. It looked like he had climbed out of the river, but his posture was stiff, too stiff to be natural. "Do you need help?" I asked. He finally turned. Not all the way, just his head. Slow, grinding slow, like the movement hurt. And his eyes, they were wrong. They were open wide, but unfocused, as if he wasn't seeing me at all. His skin was pale, but not in a normal way. It looked washed out, like paper held too long in water. Before I could take another step, he spoke. His voice cracked like it came from somewhere deep inside his chest. "You didn't hear it, did you?" I froze. "Hear what?" He took one step toward me, his soaked shoes scraping against the metal grate. "The one who calls from under." The moment he said it, the bridge groaned. A long, low sound, almost like a breath coming up from the river below. And my headlights shut off completely. The darkness swallowed everything. I couldn't even see the outline of the man anymore. I stumbled back toward my car, scrambling for my phone. The flashlight flickered on, but the beam was weak, like something was draining it. I swept the light around trying to find him, but the man had vanished. 1 second he was right in front of me, and the next he was gone. My pulse hammered in my ears. I pointed the weak light toward the rails, half expecting to see him climbing over, but the space was empty. Then I heard it. A splash. Not small. Not like a rock hitting water. It was heavy, like a person dropping from a height. I rushed to the side of the bridge and looked down, aiming the dying flashlight at the river. The beam barely reached the surface, but I could see the water rippling outward in slow waves. "Hello," I shouted. "Can you hear me?" The waves settled. Everything went still. Then the cold came again. Not air, not wind. It felt like something rising. The river surface bulged just slightly at first. Then a hand broke through the water. Pale, thin, moving wrong, like every joint bent a little too much. It reached upward, not toward the shore, not toward escape, but toward me. I stumbled back, slipping on the damp metal. The hand sank out of sight, but the ripples began to spread again, circling, almost pulsing. I didn't wait to see what followed. I ran to the car, yanked the door open, and got inside. The headlights still wouldn't turn on, but the engine started. Whatever was happening, I just needed to get off the bridge. I slammed the car into drive and pressed the accelerator. The car didn't move. The engine revved, but the tires felt locked, like something was holding the car in place. Then the back end dipped. Slow at first, then harder, like something heavy had grabbed the rear bumper and was pulling down. I screamed and hit the accelerator again, flooring it. The metal under the car strained, and for a moment I thought the whole vehicle would be dragged backward. The river roared. Not water, not current. It sounded like a voice under the bridge. A whisper, twisted and layered, like more than one throat speaking at once. "Come down." My rear tires lifted off the metal. The whole car tilted back. I don't know where the strength came from, but I slammed the gear into reverse, then drive, then reverse again, rocking the car as hard as I could. Something snapped under me. A loud crack. The bridge groaned again. Then the car lurched forward. I shot off the bridge, hands shaking, breath breaking apart in my chest. When I reached the end, the headlights flicked back on like nothing had happened. The cold vanished. The road looked normal again. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station 5 miles away. The back bumper was bent down, claw-like marks carved deep into the metal. I showed it to Mark the next day. He went pale and told me Ashwell Bridge had been the site of 3 drownings in the last decade. All unexplained. All at night. I've never crossed it again.